That is right, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of Inside the Zone with Mateo. Where, we've got an interesting thing to talk about today. We're talking all Minnesota Timberwolves, which means welcome to another edition also of Inside the Wolves, our Timberwolves podcast within our full podcast. Our full podcast is Inside the Zone with Mateo, but then within it, we have all many little podcasts. One is called Inside the Vikings, one called Inside the Wolves, and more to talk about the Vikings, the Wolves, the Twins, the Wild, all of Minnesota sports. We talk about them on this channel. Today's episode's Inside the Wolves. We're talking about the Timberwolves because, man, oh man, the Minnesota Timberwolves have been. I don't even know how to describe it. They've been in a low spot of their season right now that has just, as I put in the thumbnail today, has caused me to say, what the heck is going on? So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Season 2, episode 22 here of Inside the Zone with Mateo. Thank you guys so much for watching. And let's get straight into it, starting off with Mateo's show batting order, presented by To Be Determined. If you don't know what this is, well, basically, across the channel, across all the podcasts we do on this channel, we have this one common thing. It's called Mateo's show batting order. It's basically a order of what we're doing in the episode, right? Kind of a roadmap of what we're doing. And today we got two things. We got two things on the batting order. The first one is the problem, and the second one is the answer. So without further ado, let's get to the problem. So the massive problem is how I'm going to call it. So yeah, let's get into it here. The massive problem. Well, what is the massive problem? It is a 3-game losing streak for your Minnesota Timberwolves, who really, frankly, when you talk about these last 3 games, it hasn't just been a 3-game losing streak. It's been 3 games that you probably should have won. At least you should have won at least 2 out of the 3, but you dropped all 3, and in pretty much blowout fashion. So a little bit of context for y'all. The 3 games that we've lost, again, 2 have been games against the Orlando Magic, which yours truly was at that game. And then we started this road trip on the West Coast against the Lakers and against the Clippers Tuesday and Wednesday night. So the Magic game was at home. I was at that game. And then we started this, I think it's a 4 or 5 game road trip out west, We started off in LA playing both LA teams. And in those 3 games, the Timberwolves have been outscored 392 to 326. They've lost all 3 games. Yes, they've been outscored 66 points, by 66 points alongside those 3 games. If you divide them by 3, well, yeah, basically they're losing at least by 22 each night. And if you know what happened last night against the Clippers, it was more than that. It was a beating. And also, coming off of this 3-game losing streak, they started, previously they had a 5-game winning streak, which they were beating everybody. They beat Denver, and now all of a sudden, for the first time in a long time this season, the Minnesota Timberwolves were standing at 3rd place in the Western Conference. However, with these 3 losses and as close, as tight as the Western Conference playoff picture is going to be the rest of the season, with about exactly a month to go, you can't lose games. And it's cost them because they have dropped from the 3rd seed in the Western Conference all the way to the 6th seed. And they currently only have a 1.5 game lead over the Phoenix Suns, who they do play early next week. And they have a chance of dropping out of the playoff picture, and they might be forced to play a play-in game. So on today's episode here, we're going to address the problem, and then I'm going to, kind of give you guys what I think the answer should be, or what the answer could be. Not saying, I'm an expert or anything, but just by watching, I was at the Orlando Magic game. I watched that full game, and then I watched the Lakers game, or at least most of it, because it was on national TV on NBC. And then the Clippers game, I watched a decent amount of it because it was, again, and by the way, I've also stayed up late because the Lakers game tip-off was like 10:30 Central Standard Time, which is like 11:30 on the East Coast, because it was like the doubleheader of the NBC games. And then in against the Clippers, it was like a 9:30 Central Standard Time tip off. And then again, Friday, tomorrow, March 13th, against the Golden State Warriors, is like another 9 o'clock tip off. So I've been staying up late. Haven't been going to bed till about 11:30 or 12 uh, on Wednesday. On for the Tuesday Lakers game. I didn't go to bed till Wednesday morning because the game didn't get done till around 12:30. So I stayed up and I've watched it. So I have plenty of things to talk about here. We're also going to take a look at some of Coach Finch's comments after last game. And also we'll kind of break down some of the games so far of what on these 3-game losing streaks. So that's a little context for y'all. Before we get into those games, actually, no, let's take a look at each of those games very quickly here. Just so you guys have an idea of what these scores were like if you had no idea, if you didn't know how bad the Timberwolves have lost these last couple days. So starting off with the Magic game, the one that I attended to at Target Center, it's a game that you should have never lost. They lost 119-92. Boncaro and Desmond Bain combined for 55 total points. And then, Jalen Suggs also put 20. Sorry, no. He also had 14. And then off the bench, they didn't really have anybody play well off the bench. But Tristan De Silva did play pretty well. We're going to talk about the Timberwolves player performances in a little bit later, but I'm just going to kind of highlight what went well for the teams that beat the Timberwolves. But obviously, at home, you should never lose by that much unless you're like the Wizards who lost, who lose a lot at home, or maybe the Kings or the Pacers, teams like that. But not a team like the Timberwolves who have appeared in 2 straight Western Conference Finals. So it's unacceptable, especially at home. And so people were like, okay, and me included, I was like, okay, sure, you have these games once in a while, but now you're going out west and you should be able to beat the Lakers, especially no LeBron. We later find out that LeBron, isn't going to play. Well, it doesn't matter because Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic can do enough. They can each score 31 points. And this score, 120-106, may seem like, okay, it's only a 14-point game. They shot so bad at the start of the game. The first 3 quarters, they shot so bad that the game was over. The Lakers were winning by like 25. And at that point, I think I just turned it off. So sure, and I believe we emptied our entire bench, right? No, yes, we did. You see Julian Phillips even play, Joe Ingles played. They all played for 4 minutes. Even for the last 4 minutes of the game, it was all crunch time. It was garbage time. So none of the players were actually playing. So that's kind of where those scores get tighter. So it definitely could have been a final score of 21 to 22 point differential, but it only ends up being 14, thankfully. Otherwise, it would have made that point differential over these last 3 games even worse. But 120-106 loss in LA. I believe Justin Jefferson was actually there, so that's kind of embarrassing. But Luka Doncic hit 4 out of 12 threes. He did have a shaky night to start, but he was a plus 20 at the end of the night. He had 31 points in 35 minutes. And then in 38 minutes, Austin Reeves had 31 points as well. He shot 50% from the floor, 4 of 10 from 3. And then he was also a plus 18. And then kind of the big story off the bench, Luke Kennard had 10 points, but over 2 on threes. Bronny did play a couple minutes, which was interesting. Obviously, LeBron was a scratch because of an injury. DeAndre Ayton did play pretty dang well as well. I mean, really all the Laker players did play pretty well in that game. And then finally, it was a back-to-back, the second game of a back-to-back, but against a Clippers team that is feisty. And, Kawhi's maybe been having the best season of his career. And they absolutely come out and play. I believe they scored 40 points at the end of the first quarter. And they just didn't stop. I believe the Timberwolves gave up 44 points in the fourth quarter. Clippers win this one 153-128. Sure, you scored more points, but again, there was much garbage time. There was more garbage time than last time. 6 to 7 minutes of garbage time for your Minnesota Timberwolves. So you said they were basically throwing this game already. So, and I believe all the time when the Timberwolves empty their bench, their garbage time players always score more than the other team's garbage time players, which is kind of interesting to think. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I don't know. But yeah, 150. You give up 153 points to the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard goes for 45 points. He literally shot 15 of 20. He was a plus 41. Absolutely insane in 32 minutes. The next best player, Darius Garland, we got to see him for the really first time after the trade, and also Benedict Mathurin, first time since the trade, really 22 points off the bench, which is absolutely insane. Also, Isaiah Jackson, 18 points. Excuse me, that was not 18. That was 18 minutes. Jordan Miller, 14 points off the bench in 29 minutes. But yeah, it just was not good whatsoever these last 3 games. And it's just caused me to think, like, what are we doing, Timberwolves, right? I'm trying to address this. So with all that context, I have found 3 things. I have found 3 things, kind of, really one main thing, 2 side things. We're going to start with the 2 side things. But before we do so, kind of like what needs to be fixed and, why they're struggling so bad. Let's take a look at the playoff picture. Western Conference playoff spots right now as of March 12th, as I'm recording this video. The bad news is the Twins are down. Sorry, the Wolves are down to the 6th seed. But the good news is that the seeds 3 through 6 are all decided, are all, within a half a game of each other. So if this is going to be the one positive news besides Anthony Edwards for your Minnesota Timberwolves, it's only 0.5 games. So even if you were to win tomorrow against the Golden State Warriors, most likely you'll jump out of the 6th seed. But then the question comes into play. If you lose to the Golden State Warriors and Phoenix has a really easy schedule, you are definitely in jeopardy of, and by the way, you do not have the tiebreaker with Phoenix. Phoenix has owned you this season. You definitely have a chance of then making the play-in. And then I do think the Timberwolves should make it out of the play-in if they were to, miss a 1 through 6 seed, which would actually be shocking. But then even if you win the play-in tournament, you still have to then probably play San Antonio in the first round. And then, you got to play Wemby in the first round. That should not be a first round matchup, but you put yourself in that situation. By the way, I was only able to put in 9 seeds out of the 10 play in total seeds. I believe it is the Portland Trailblazers, as the time of recording this. They are 20 games back of the Thunder, so they are 1.5 games back of the Golden State Warriors, who it's going to be interesting to see what they do because, ever since that Jimmy Butler injury, nothing's been the same. They do have Porzingis. Curry's been missing a lot of games. I don't know if he's going to play tomorrow, but we shall see. We shall see indeed, but we're not going to talk about the Golden State Warriors. We're here to talk about the Timberwolves. So yeah, after that context, let's get into the 3 things kind of that, I've taken away from these last 3 games. There's 2 side things and 1 big thing. Let's start with the first thing. Boom. Defense is gone. The defense is officially gone. For a team, you're going to hear one of the reporters ask Chris Finch this later on in the show. For a team that takes so much pride, right, into their defense, this is just unacceptable, right? And Chris Finch does say, yes, it is unacceptable. And it is, because when you're getting outscored by 20 to 30 points a game, and for this, I'm going to mostly talk about the Clippers game, but as well as, I'm going to say the Clippers and then the Magic game and then the Lakers game. The Lakers game was kind of luck because, to be honest, if you watch that first half, mostly that first quarter, no one could shoot the ball. So I'm going to kind of ignore that Lakers game for this point, but mostly focus on the Magic and the Clippers game where, and also, to be honest, the Lakers are a playoff team. The Magic, yes, they're 34-28, but they're definitely not, I believe, in order of how good these teams are that you played over the last 3 days, or over the last really 4 days, I'd say the Lakers are the best team, the Magic are the second best, and then the Clippers are the worst team you played. But they're all still talented. They're all probably going to make the playoff or play-in tournament at some extent. But when you look at it, the Magic and the Clippers, you should have won. You should have beaten them. You are a much better team than them. You have 40 wins. You have at least 6 to 8 more wins than these teams, right? You have 40 wins on the season, and there's no way you lose it, especially the Magic game that I went to. You're at home, right? There's just no excuse. And the fact that you were just getting outplayed, yes, I know the offense was bad, but I'm focusing on the defense right here. The defense, I mean, just so many times, and this is why I'm going to bring up the Magic game too, because I was watching that. I was there. Like, you cannot allow, I mean, you can't allow the Magic to shoot 46%. Like, they shot 46%. They shot 26% from three, which is still not that good, but they made a lot of their threes. And then the free throws, like, you allowed them to take so many free throws, 31 free throws. Sure, you had the same amount, but it just seemed like costly turnovers, costly fouls, just kind of gave you up, just basically sold you that game at that point. Too many fouls for sure. But when you let them shoot 46%, right? That's just unacceptable. And then let me pull up the Clippers shooting percentage because it was even worse. They shot 63%. Sure, you did end up shooting 60% some way, somehow against the Clippers, but allowing the Clippers, who, we should have been shooting 60% and they should have been shooting 43%. But I mean, you don't allow a team to shoot 63%, and you certainly don't allow a team to shoot 46%. I do think it was higher for a majority of the game once the starters got pulled, once they emptied their benches. That's when the percentage did go down for the Magic. But as somebody who was there, who was watching that percentage on the scoreboard every couple minutes, for a majority of the game, Orlando was shooting over 53% from the floor. So I just got to say that. And it's just unacceptable for a team that, takes so much pride in their defense. It is completely unacceptable. And I've had enough. You have Rudy Gobert. And by the way, Gobert, I am not going to blame really anything on Rudy Gobert. Gobert is doing his job. Like, you do not expect him to score a lot of points. His job is for defense, and for the most part, he's doing his job. Sure, there are a couple plays. You can find it on film that he's just maybe being a little lazy. But overall, the guys I am talking about that aren't doing their jobs on defense, because this is the key thing. The defense is non-existent, and why is it? Because Jaden McDaniels cannot defend anymore, or just doesn't want to defend anymore, or is just maybe not as good. I don't know. Julius Randle just gets bullied in the paint, even though he's a big guy. He's just, or he just lets people dunk on his head. I would say Dante needs to be a little better, but again, I'm not going to pick on him too, because you, again, don't expect him to do much. But the two main guys, I mean, I could nitpick on Reed a little bit. I could for sure pick on Bones and Io, but the problem is you don't expect them to do as much as really people say, okay, it's Ant and then Randall and McDaniels, right? So this is why I hold Jaden and Julius to such a big standard, because people hold them to a big standard, saying you're the second and third stars of this team. I would disagree. I would say it's Ant and then Gobert and then maybe Naz Reid before Julius and Jaden. But, I understand where you guys are coming from. Obviously, they're making a lot of money. They're still talented by all means. They're still talented. But this last couple months, but certainly these last 3 games, Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle have just not been locked in. I mean, and they just have given up on defense, it seems like. Yeah, it doesn't mean they have given up, but from a bird's eye view, from somebody who's, who's not there, but someone just watching, it just seems like they aren't trying as much, and they don't. I don't know if that's a coaching problem. I don't know if that's a personal problem. However, they're the two people besides Gobert and Ant that you look to. And I would even say sometimes you look to Randall and Jaden more than you look to Ant or Gobert for defensive stops. You say, okay, McDaniels and Randall, I'm going to put you out there so that you stop whatever guy. You'll see Jaden. I mean, Jaden multiple times was guarding Luka Doncic, even if Anthony Edwards or Dante DiVincenzo was on the floor on Tuesday night. And you'll see Randall. Randall was guarding Kawhi a lot of the time last night. You'll see this multiple times. Paolo was getting guarded by both of those guys. Sure, that was because of the size as well, but also you tend to match up unless there's somebody who's equivalent to Ant, like in size, I would say. Like a Jamal Murray is somebody that Ant, I think, can easily guard. A Shea, I think people enjoy watching that too. A Steph, some of the smaller guards in the league, Ant can guard. But if the superstar or the major star on the opposite team is a big star, or even if it's not, like Luka, you're going to see Jaden or Julius on them at least a couple times in the game. And you saw that a lot these last 3 games. And they have just been, I mean, getting burned. I mean, letting guys dribble past them. I mentioned already getting dunked on. Just maybe stopping and just letting them get an easy layup. And then for heaven's sakes, they can't even rebound a ball either. Like for Randall, I think he normally leads the Timberwolves in rebounds, and I think he did on Saturday against the Magic. Yeah, he had 9 rebounds, and then Naz Reid and Rudy had 8. And I gotta say, Randall did have a okay performance against the Magic. He did have an okay performance game against the Lakers, but okay is not what you need from who's supposed to be your second star. And then against the Clippers, I mean, the Clippers, no one played well. No one played well. But Randall certainly didn't play well. He only had 11 points. He only had 6 rebounds. I mean, but still, somehow, some way, he led the team in rebounds, which again is just insane. Jaden had 0 points going into the fourth quarter on Saturday against the Magic, and Jaden ended up with 3. It was just all 3 free throws. He went 0 for 9 from the floor, only 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers. Oh, and by the way, on Saturday, Julius Randle, 4 turnovers. On Tuesday, against the Lakers, only 2 turnovers, and then 4 turnovers yet again. So that is a combined almost 10-ish turnovers just on Julius Randle alone. And sure, Jaden struggles with that against, I will say, I got to point this out right here as I'm looking at it. Anthony Edwards against the Clippers did have just 5 turnovers, which, yeah, I can acknowledge that is a lot. Anthony had 2 turnovers against the Lakers, but then he had 0. He had 0 against the Orlando Magic, who, by the way, he had 17 points at the end of the first quarter. He was the only one playing well. He shot, even though he ended up shooting 8 of 18, he's still by far was the best player on the court for both sides. But yeah, in general, just the defense isn't there right now, and that's why I see it as a big problem. That's one of the key reasons why the major problem is this 3-game losing streak. It's a major factor of why the Timberwolves have been losing as well. So it's just frustrating as a Timberwolves fan for sure. It's frustrating to see this towards the end of the season too, because if you don't fix this, you're going to get burned in the playoffs. I wouldn't even be surprised if you get first round exit. If you're a first round exit, I would not be surprised at all if you continue to play like this. And I don't think anybody else would be. But to transition to the second kind of mini side thing of why this 3-game losing streak is such a big problem and why it is happening, it's the other side of the ball, because as well as it doesn't matter, the defense is totally gone, right? But the offense isn't doing much better. And I do got to say no one but Ant can shoot. And I do got to note that Ant didn't shoot it great against the Los Angeles Lakers. He only was 2 of 15. However, in the Magic game, he went off for 34, including 17 in the first quarter. And then against the Clippers, he had 36, and he shot insanely well as well. And overall, too, when you're a guy like Anthony Edwards, we know he's trustworthy. He's a superstar, maybe a top 5 player in the NBA. I'm going to hold him to a different standard than Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels just because I know what Ed and is capable of. And while I don't think he should have these off nights, I understand that he can have off nights, but he doesn't have off nights that very much. So when one comes, I'm like, yeah, it would have been nice if he would have scored a little bit more or shot way better than that. But you got to say he still came up with 14 points against the Lakers. That was still the team tied for the team high with Julius Randle at 14. But he's had way more 30-point games, way more 40-point games than Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels. So it's just it's okay in a sense. It doesn't mean it's right, but I find it's easier to say, okay, yeah, Ant just has one bad night, because then he's going to rebound normally with a big monster game. And that's exactly what he did the following day against the Clippers. So when you're talking like, why is this so bad? Why is this offense so bad? And who's struggling? Well, Jaden McDaniels, I already mentioned at the Magic game, 0 of 9 from the floor. DiVincenzo ended the day with 0 points against the Magic, which, again, he kind of has those once in a while, but, it can't happen. But he went 0 for 6 from the floor. That was 0 for 6, actually, from the three-point line as well. He only had 2 rebounds. He definitely struggled, and he has these struggles. But then I think he did rebound pretty nicely against the Lakers. Sure, only 8 points and only 33% from the floor. I do think he approached his shots better. And then against the Clippers, he only had 6 points. So it's not been a good stretch for Dante at all. But then it's also not been a great stretch for Julius Randle, right? 14 points. Sure, that's like decent, but that should be what DiVincenzo is doing. I want Randle to score between 20 and 25 a night if you're actually a co-star. He also had 14. Sure, he's keeping it chill. 14 against the Lakers, but then 11 again. Like, he right now, he and Naz Reid basically are performing at the same level. And this is just my big problem. When people say, okay, Julius Randle here is our co-star with Anthony Edwards. This is why I just have such a big problem, because he's currently not performing. He's not performing much better than Naz Reid, who people, I love Naz Reid, but people would not say Naz Reid is your co-star to Anthony Edwards, right? People say Julius Randle is the co-star to Anthony Edwards, but when you look at the stats, defensively and offensively, they tend to have almost identical stat lines every single game, and it's just got to tell you something, and that's why, for me, I have such a big problem with Julius Randle being this co-star. If he wasn't the co-star, I probably wouldn't have this problem. But since people have said, oh, he is the co-star, well, then I have a problem. And the same thing with Jaden McDaniels, who only had 3 points. 3 points. Like, you got to have at least 15 when you're Jaden McDaniels. But no, he didn't even make a basket. He had to wait till he got fouled to go to the free throw line to get points. And that was in the fourth quarter. He had 3 points, 3 free throws. It's just unacceptable for a guy like Jaden McDaniels. And then the shooting troubles has continued against the Lakers for Jaden McDaniels. 6 points only. He didn't even make a free throw. He didn't even go to the line, but he went 3 of 9 from the floor. He went 0 for 5, though, from three-point land. And this is also one thing. When your shots are not going in, get away from the three-point line. As a guy who loves to take threes, and I'm pretty bad at shooting. I'm good at defense. I have lockdown defense for the majority of the time. But there are days when I'll maybe hit a couple threes. But overall, I'm not going to hit a bunch of threes. And what do I do when I'm playing a game? When I'm playing with my friends and I'm chilling for fun, yeah, I'll take some threes. But in general, if I'm actually playing basketball, if I'm playing with a game, I have to, after I take a couple threes, I gotta realize, okay, it's not gonna go in. Let's take a little break from it and just start driving. And guess what happens? I start making shots. That's what these guys got to do, and they know it. Obviously, they know it. But I also get the idea of, yeah, they're trying to shoot their way out of their slump. The only guy I want to see shooting his way out of the slump is Anthony Edwards, because I know he's gonna make it. Okay, it didn't happen against the Lakers as he went 1 of 10 from three-point land, but majority of the time it will help. No one else should be shooting, just putting up too deep of threes just to try to get back into their rhythm. If it's not working, drive. Jaden McDaniels, there's no reason you have to take 5 3-point shots if nothing's going in. Drive. You're a big guy. At least then take some fouls and go to the free throw line. Who knows what might have happened. And then against the Clippers, Jaden, He did have 11. At least he scored a little bit. He hit 1 3. He only took 1 3, though, so thankfully that's good. He at least dialed in. And you can see against the Clippers, they did not take as many threes. Julius Randle, 0 for 1 from 3. Jaden McDaniels, 1 for 1 from 3. Rudy's never going to take a 3 to save his life. Dante, 1 of 2 from 3. Ant even only took 8 threes. He was 3 of 8 from 3. I don't care about like Jalen Phillips, Julian Phillips, or Rocco Zerkowski, but Naz Reid only 3 threes. Clark did hit 2 threes in bonus in garbage time. Shannon only 2 threes, but he didn't even make them. Highland only 4 threes. Like, props to them. They at least didn't take as many threes as they had against the Magic and the Lakers. But so yeah, it's just when it's not going, I want them to drive more. They have the bodies. Randall should be able to drive more. McDaniel should drive more. Even Dante has a really good layup shot there. So that's a big problem here. And then I'm gonna kind of focus in general with the bench shooting percentages here. In general, Naz Reid has been playing pretty well. I gotta admit here. Io did miss one of the games. I believe he missed the Clipper game. Yeah, he missed the Clipper game, so we can't judge him off of that. And I do think he played pretty well, despite going over 2 from 3 against the Lakers. He still managed to get 13 points. And then Nas still got 13 points. And to be honest, Bones had 11 points as well. Terrence Shannon surprisingly did have 12 points, which is actually kind of insane. So your bench was shooting way better against the Lakers than your starters. But when you're down that much, you need your starters to play. And so I get that. But I do think, hey, maybe if Randall's not playing as well, and I do think he did get benched a little bit. He did get benched a little bit. I'm pretty dang sure. He only played 26 minutes. So did Jaden McDaniels, which that's kind of saying something. But then against the Magic, the bench was okay. Nas shot about 50%. Yeah, he did shoot 50% from the floor. He did score 13 points, but then otherwise, Bones had 9 points. He was only 1 of 6 from 3, though. He only made a couple shots and a couple free throws. Shannon Clark, I mean, just none of these guys could get anything to go. DeSumo only had 3 points. That was 1 3-pointer. So the bench was definitely not a factor into the Magic game. They were more of a factor into the Lakers game. They played pretty well against the Lakers. And then against the Clippers, as we said, Nas had 18 points, which was great. And then Clark, surprisingly, in garbage time had 11 points, and then Bones had 10, and he was he shot 67% from the floor, which is really nice. Really nice. So, the bench is kind of ups and downs, but that's exactly what a bench is supposed to be. And why I get so much more angry with or frustrated with these starters is because they're the starters. They're making the most money. They hold the most importance to this team in a way. So, I'm going to hold Randall, McDaniels, and company to a higher standard than Kyle Anderson and Naz Reid and Io DeSumo and Bones Highland, just because that's just the position they are in this team. So with that all being said, that's the kind of the second thing that, that's the kind of the second problem or the second reason why this team has lost 3 in a row. And now the third reason is the biggest reason. Personally, I think is going to be a very hot take. Now, I have heard it across the sports world these last couple days, but also I have been thinking about this for quite some time. The third and final reason why I think the Timberwolves have been in this 3-game losing streak and always seem to just find ways to lose against poor teams or just worse teams and just always find their ways into these slumps is ultimately due to team management. And you can't make a trade. You can't make a trade anymore. The trade deadline's passed. Do I think they should have tried to make a trade for Giannis, even if that's trading Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels? Yes, I think they should have. However, they did not. So you're stuck with this team. You're stuck with this team until really June. But there is one thing you can change. And I think most basketball fans, most sports fans know where I'm going. But before I go there, let's talk about why. Why would I say team management? Well, you see, it all goes back to that Magic game. That Magic game made Absolutely no sense whatsoever. Anthony Edwards, as you see, had 34 points. Half of those points came in, guess what, the first quarter. Anthony Edwards, after a 17-point first quarter, he played, I think, like 8 to 9 minutes in the first quarter, got sat down by Coach Finch. And Anthony Edwards did not come back till midway of the second quarter. He then only, after, being basically benched for no good reason, he then only shot 3 shots. And I believe he only made one of them. So after a monster first quarter, he ended the half under 20 points when he had 17 in the first half. In the first quarter. He then I believe, started the third quarter off the bench. Sorry, no. That was the fourth quarter. He started the fourth quarter. Yeah, and that makes it even worse. He then played a majority of the third quarter, got some shots to go, but in general, long story short, the Timberwolves were kind of losing bad already. They were taking too deep of threes, and you know what's going on. But then, Anthony Edwards guess what? Pulled. And doesn't even start the fourth quarter, where you still definitely had a chance. You still had a chance. And Coach Finch decides, I'm just not going to play the best player on this team. And I'm just going to I have more faith in guys like Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels. But then, but once we're down like 25 points, that's when I'm going to put Anthony Edwards back in. Like, he's going to be able to do anything when everybody else is shooting 30 or less percent. I think the rest of the team, besides Anthony Edwards, they were lucky that their shooting percentage ended at like 35.6, which, by the way, was the worst shooting percentage in the season. But it was that good because Edwards made shots. Can you imagine if Edwards hadn't played or if he hadn't made his shots? I think they would have shot 15%. Because that's how bad they were playing. And it just all comes down. It's just, why would you not play your best player who is definitely okay and in shape to play more than 32 minutes? Guys like Jokic and SGA, they play like 36 to 38 minutes a night. And guess what? Anthony Edwards averages like 33 minutes a night. Play the guy more. He's in his 20s. He is in shape. He's a professional athlete. He's the best player on your team, arguably one of the best players in the entire NBA. And you had a chance. You had a chance to win. You had a chance to come from behind. And by not playing Anthony Edwards, who is your best player, you just watched your teams putting up shots that made no sense to try to shoot. You watched your team go from like a 15-point deficit to a 25-point deficit. And you just thought your team could do it without Anthony. Now, I'm not saying that's what he thought, but that's just what I'm getting. Just what I'm getting from watching it live, too. And then you say, okay, now he's been on the bench for like 10 minutes. So, of course, now he's not even going to be in rhythm. Now I just expect him to go off for 17 more points and make this a 2-point game. When obviously that's not the case. After you sit on the bench, no matter how good you are, it always takes a couple seconds or a couple minutes to get in. And for sure, in a game that you had not been shooting well, it took a little longer for Ant to go in the fourth. And it makes no sense. And I even see this minus, this plus minus. Anthony Edwards was a -3 when on the court. Why didn't you play him more than 32 minutes? Why did Rudy Gobert, who, props to Gobert, I think he's super important, second most important player on this team. Why did he, who is actually gets tired quicker, who had about the same amount of fouls. By the way, Edwards only had 3 fouls. By the way, McDaniels had 4. Julius had 3. Reed had 4. Why did they play more than Anthony Edwards? It's just confusing. Now, Randall and McDaniels, minutes-wise, did not play more. But they played more minutes in the second half. And it's just so, like, I understand why he's trying to balance it, but in a game where you're losing, in a game that you should have won, you got to put Ant-Man in. He's the Ant-Man. And to that, it just makes no sense whatsoever. And that's just one example. He does it all the time. He's so set in, I got to play so many, these players, they all have to play over 20 minutes. When reality is, if they're not playing well, they don't have to play. And thankfully that he has started to do that with Randall. Because Randall, when he starts to not hit shots and not play well, he does bench him. But then I don't get why he benches Edwards. Because Edwards is your superstar. He does not need to be benched. But let me know your guys' thoughts on the whole Finch thing. And just some of his comments he makes. We're going to listen to his post-game interview against the Clippers. By the way, yeah, the game that they lost 153 to 128. We're going to listen to his post-game, or at least a little bit of it. It's a 3-minute post-game interview. We're going to break it down here. Dude, it's just... I don't want to come to the conclusion that I'm making because Finch is well-respected here. He's loved. But I might have a clear answer, and it might upset a lot of people. But first, let's see what Finch has to say after the 153-128 loss to the Clippers.
To give up 153, in a game for a team that prides itself on defense, just
And there's the word that the phrase that I said, a team that takes so much pride in their defense. I'm gonna throw captions on just so it's just make sure you guys can hear it in case, because I've also had some audio trouble, so I apologize if the audio doesn't work as well. I've been having some problems with that, so I'll just throw on captions just in case.
Obviously, it's not acceptable, and they didn't have a single quarter under 35 points, and they shot 63%.
That's just insane. That's insane. They didn't have a single quarter under 35 points. Golly.
51 from 3, and went to the line 36 times. So not a acceptable defensive performance at all. So
that's it. That's you just say it's not acceptable defense performance at all. So yeah, that's all he says. That's all you have to say. What about? Yeah, we got to make some changes. We got to study some film. That's what I want to hear. Sure, people know that's what he's going to do, but I need you to be a leader. You're the coach. Tell us what you're going to do. Tell us how you're going to fix it. And that's just one of my biggest problems. He doesn't seem like he fixes it. He just keeps the same game plan every single time. He's so set in his ways, like I said earlier, that he has to say, oh yeah, all these players have to play over 20 minutes. And everything has to be perfect. It's just so ridiculous.
It's now 3 straight really decisive losses. Just what do you guys have to do to pull out of this?
We got to regroup. We got to play both sides of the floor. Last night it was our offense. Tonight it was our defense. So we got.
I'm sorry. Last night, when he's talking about the Laker game, I'm sorry. Yeah, you shot awful. Your team shot awful, including Anthony Edwards. But I'm pretty sure I watched a game where the defense was just as bad. And he's just saying, oh yeah, last night it was our offense. Tonight was our defense. No. It's the whole team besides Anthony Edwards. Now, here, I will say, it's Anthony Edwards. He should have hit way more shots on Tuesday night against the Lakers. But he kind of redeemed himself after hitting 36. I'm okay with that. But you guys, I saw the same performance 3 straight games. You don't just say that. You don't just say, oh, last night was our offense, and now we got to fix our defense. No, your defense, we were just having that conversation on Saturday. How was it 2 games ago that we're now going back to, oh, yeah, now we got to fix our defense again? You didn't fix your defense? That's what we needed you to do after the Magic game. Ugh.
Put a complete game together.
You do got to put a complete game together, but I have not seen a complete game since the Denver game.
Come back together. We know we're a good team. Feels like we're a million miles away from where we were a week ago, but we're not. Got to
I mean, hey, that is reality. They're only 0.5 games away from the 3 seed yet again, which, I mean, yeah, it's respectable. Appreciate that.
Group and win the next game.
Dante.
I'm just kind of confused, too. I saw some comments on this in this press conference. It's like, what does...
We're a week ago, but we're not. Got to regroup and win the next game.
What does that mean? Sorry about that. What does By the way, I know I say a lot. I'm sorry. But I was saying that I was reading the subtitles. But what does we got to regroup and win the next game mean? Yeah, what if you don't win the next game? Then what happens? Huh? You said that after the Orlando game. You guys said, okay, yeah, we got to regroup. We got to lock in. We got to we got to win the next game. Did you win the next game? No. You said after the Laker game, oh yeah, we got to regroup and win the next game. You didn't win. No, you didn't. You didn't win. You got to change something, my man. You're not winning. Okay? So I'm just so confused with that. Like, oh yeah, we got to regroup and win the next game. Yeah, you do, but you haven't. You've been saying the same thing since the Magic game. Like, golly.
Dante was saying last night even that some guys are not following the game plan that is set out. I mean, as a coach, when you hear that stuff, are you seeing a lot of game plan mistakes or errors that are contributing?
Tonight wasn't so much the game plan mistakes.
And I can't speak to this too because I'm not a part of the game plan, but I don't got much to say about this.
Last night we talked about the things we needed to do offensively to be better against the type of defense that they were going to present, and we didn't really do that. So I think that's what he was referring to tonight, not so much. So.
With Kawhi, when he's in a rhythm like that, is it a helpless feeling?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He's playing at the level that he was. Toronto MVP Finals Kawhi. I mean, we haven't seen this run of performance from him for a long time, and there's not much you can do. He's had the mid-range shot going. He was 8 for 8, I think, at halftime. Then we tried to double him, and he made the right play every single time, made his pay. So he was spectacular tonight.
The turnovers were bad offensively, but did you see some body movement?
Yeah, we shot 60%, 44 from 3, got to the line 29 times, and had 32 assists. Like, I thought we had a much better purpose and structure and identity.
I do agree. They shot way better. They took less threes. So I did give them credit to that when I was breaking down that game a couple minutes ago. But golly, dude, it's like you just don't lose. You don't lose. And you know what you see what I'm saying? Like, he's just saying the same thing over and over again. And we just don't see any changes. We don't see any changes, and I want to see changes. And I feel like that's just why the Timberwolves are where they are. Why they're where they are right now. They always get these. 3 to 7 game losing streaks in the whole Finch era, really since 2021. You always get these weird losing streaks that you shouldn't lose, but you do. And I just go back to it and I say it's gotta be a team management. Like you had Cat a couple years ago and the same thing happened. Now you have Julius and Dante after that trade and the same thing's happening. Well, what's one thing that has been the same? Who's one person that's been there the entire time? You could say that's Anthony Edwards, but it's not Anthony Edwards. It's not. You'd be a fool to say that. And now I could be a fool for saying this. But I think the reason the Minnesota Timberwolves are in this massive problem of this 3-game losing streak, which, yes, I know it's only a 3-game losing streak, and they're only a half game out of the 3 seed yet again, it's just the way they play, it's scaring me for the postseason. The way they play, they're playing right now. The way I've seen them play, they've always had these roads, the blocks in the road. If they played like this in the playoffs, they're getting first rounded. And obviously, no one wants that. But when push comes to shove, what the heck is going on? That man on your screen is all I can say. Because he just has a track record of not changing. He doesn't change his game plan. Sure, the game plan will change for, team to team based on the players, but the Timberwolves do the same things over and over again. They turn the ball over. Even if they're winning, they turn the ball over way too many times. They force too many passes. They can't rebound. And then in this 3-game losing streak, they cannot shoot outside of this game against the Clippers because they did shoot 60%. But still, only 2s, not 3. They can't get that 3 shot to go. They can't play defense. They're just letting players walk right into the paint or shoot uncontested 3s. There's so many wide open 3s. And it all comes down to team management and the coaching staff. And as I said, we're past the trade deadline. You can't trade anyone. The only change you can make that might help is obviously, I don't want this to happen. I like Finch a lot. As much as I'm saying this, raging him, right? I respect Finch a lot. He brought us to the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years. We have a chance to do it again. Do I see them doing it, though, again, under this roster, under this management? No. And for those reasons, I think the answer to this big problem, this massive problem of this 3-game losing streak is you got to fire Chris Finch. However, if you find a way, if you beat Golden State, which you better tomorrow, if you somehow beat the injured OKC Thunder, and then if you somehow beat the Phoenix Suns at home, he can stay. However, Golden State, Prime Video, national TV game. Oklahoma City, Sunday, 12 p.m. ABC, national TV. 2 more. I mean, it's been so many national televised games. We got 2 more here. You're showing the world what this team is right now, and it's an embarrassment. And I think there's a guy out there who knows how to win a championship that's just working for ESPN, where they don't need that many analysts. They just got inside the NBA. Michael Malone is available. He has a connection to Tim Connelly, our general manager. Tim Connelly hired him back in Denver. He knows how to win. He knows how to use a superstar, because I feel like Finch doesn't necessarily know how to use Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, I feel like, is trying to be too much of a team player. He needs to take over. He needs to go on savage Ant-Man mode. Because the way this team is playing, they're getting first rounded. And for me, the answer to this massive, massive problem is firing Chris Finch. We've seen it before. Michael Malone got fired in April. It's not even April yet. It's March 12th when I'm recording this video. Now, however, things can change. They can go back to the 3 seed after they should beat the injured Golden State Warriors. But if they don't, and then lose to OKC, and certainly if they go on a 6-game losing streak, I think Tim Connelly's better. He better be thinking about, the possibility of firing Chris Finch. But that's going to do it for today's episode here on Inside the Wolves, on Inside the Zone with Mateo. Thank you guys so much for watching. And coming up next week, coming up on the rest of the channel here, the rest of the weekend, and then next week, we got almost daily shorts coming to you guys. We got reactions to NFL signings, maybe NBA news. Maybe do we see Chris Finch get fired this weekend? Possibly. I'll update you guys with my reactions and opinions and just all the facts as well, because that's the most important thing, just so you guys knowing the facts. I'll update you guys via the short portal most likely, because they're just easier to post, easier to make. We got a weekly rebuild on Saturday coming up. If you guys don't know, every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we're going through January, February, and March, these first 3 months of the 2026 season. We're doing a 5-year rebuild where you guys actually get to vote for which game you guys want me to do a 5-year rebuild in, either Madden, NBA 2K, MLB The Show, or NHL 25. And this week's winner was MLB, and I just filmed a Washington Nationals 5-year rebuild, try to win 2 championships in 5 years. But then we also got a Kingdom Competitors episode coming out on Saturday or Sunday this weekend. And then, of course, next week, our weekly episodes return. Weekly episodes every Tuesday and every Thursday here on the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy this. Let me know your guys' Wolves takes and just what you guys think about the Timberwolves situation on this big, massive problem of this 3-game losing streak. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to keep God first because he's the most important thing in your lives. And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Have a great night. Peace.